I'm Ashan Singh. It's Wednesday, July 29th. You've got questions and we've got answers. This is Search. We're breaking down what you're asking right now in real time. Let's get right to it. We've got our Maya Ephraim here. She oversees our online search trends. Maya, what are people searching for today?
Hi, Ashan. Day 2 of the Lindsay Clancy murder trial unfolded in Massachusetts today. Prosecutors are presenting testimony in the case against the former labor nurse accused of killing her 3 children. She's pleaded not guilty and says a medical condition drove her to do it. People are interested in the testimony from her ex-husband, Patrick Clancy, details on the 911 call and hospital photos. They're also looking at Lindsay's medical timeline, asking how many medications she was prescribed. Turning to the Middle East, the conflict with Iran intensified following a surprise missile attack targeting U.S. forces. The escalation triggered a new wave of questions, with people asking how many missiles and weapons Iran has left, how the oil markets are reacting to the strikes, and looking up why Ukraine targeted Iranian assets in the Caspian Sea. Ashan, people are point blank asking if the Iran war is spreading. And on Capitol Hill, dramatic scenes unfolded at a Senate hearing today as Dr. Anthony Fauci invoked his Fifth Amendment rights during testimony on COVID-19 origins. People are asking how the Fifth Amendment works, why Fauci is testifying, and what he's being accused of by lawmakers. They're also looking up details on Fauci's pandemic-era diary released by Senator Rand Paul.
A lot of news to get to today. Maya, thank you so much. We got a busy Wednesday ahead. Let's dive a little deeper into the story that you guys can't stop asking about, the Lindsay Clancy murder trial. We've got our legal analyst, Brian Buckmeyer, following the case. Brian, thanks so much for joining us. Lindsay Clancy's ex-husband back on the stand today. What more are we learning from him?
Yeah, and what we heard from this testimony from Patrick Clancy was gut-wrenching 911 call. Now, I can't say we actually heard it because the judge agreed for the audience not to hear it, but we did hear a little color of the court hearing that people in the jury were crying. Even the defendant, Lindsay Clancy herself, crying as well. The focus on his testimony that ended today was about what he saw when he got to the home, the condition that Lindsay was in, how he saw his 3 children in a very gruesome way, and then of course his 911 call, his response to law enforcement about what he saw that first time. Now, he wasn't cross-examined, which isn't too peculiar because I imagine the defense will call him as their own witness and they'll dive into a lot more there. Following that, we heard other witnesses like a CVS employee and others who can talk to us about what they saw Patrick was doing when he was outside the home, his reactions to learning he had to rush back home, as well as some of the interactions with Lindsay, whether or not she seemed normal or off, or any kind of clues they can get to the defense of there being postpartum psychosis.
Yeah, Brian, we're seeing a lot of searches today where people are looking up the exact medications that Lindsay was prescribed prior to murdering her 3 children. How could that actually impact the case? What do we know about those?
So it's a big thing, and I'm going to apologize in advance. You probably should have gone to the doctor if you wanted the actual names for some of this medication. But we've got a few. There's Klonopin, there's Prozac, there's Valium, there's Zoloft. There's a number of them that I can't pronounce, but you see them there on the screen, over a dozen of them. And the way that it's impacting this case is, don't forget, the argument here is not that Lindsay didn't kill her children, but instead that she lacked criminal intent, or as other states call it, the insanity defense. And so this helps the jury understand and the defense argue that she was trying to get help, that she was prescribed various medication. She didn't take some, as the prosecution is arguing, and that's their argument to say, well, she avoided this, she's planning this is premeditated. But I think the way that it's going to impact this jury is when we get a medical professional, especially on the stand, they're going to evaluate what care she was receiving, what care she actually took, and whether or not this is premeditation or a woman in the thralls of postpartum psychosis, not getting the proper medication she needs, leading to a very tragic end.
Yeah, do you think Lindsay will actually take the stand in this case, Brian?
So first and foremost, it is her constitutional right not to testify, and if she doesn't, the jury has the ability not to hold it against her. But in my professional opinion, I don't think she'll take the stand. This is why I say that. If your defense is that you were lacking criminal intent, you were insane, as many states call it, what are you going to say? You can't go up there and articulate what was going through your mind at that time because, according to her defense, she was not properly prescribed medication. She was in the thralls of this postpartum psychosis. She can't articulate fully what a jury would need. I think the smartest thing for her to do is allow her attorney to argue that she was going through the psychosis. She couldn't understand what she was going at that time, and that's why the defense worked so well for her. I don't think we'll see her on the stand.
Yeah, Brian, before I let you go, I got to put you in the driver's seat. You're a defense attorney yourself. What kind of strategy would you take if you're representing Lindsay Clancy in this?
I think first and foremost, it's about picking the right jury. I can tell you myself personally, I have one son, and not to go a little too deep, but we're also trying for a second, and we've had some trouble, miscarriages, IVF, things like that. I want husbands and wives who understand the difficulty of having children. I want them to understand the difficulty of postpartum and give her a little bit of grace. Along with the scientific information and the argument for postpartum psychosis, those are the people that I think are going to be most lenient towards her defense, understanding not only what she did to her children, but what she did to herself. Because at the end of the day, this is not about being not guilty that she didn't commit these actions. It's about being not guilty because of what happened to her during that birthing stage and after giving birth to these 3 kids. Someone who understands that and can sympathize for that, even though the court doesn't want us to do that, is going to probably be the best for the defense here.
That insight is fantastic. Thank you so much for that perspective, Brian. Appreciate you, man. All right, let's get to the Middle East. After Iran attacked Jordan with missiles, our Matt Rivers is on the ground in Amman, the country's capital. Matt, thanks so much for being there on the ground, giving us kind of what's going on out there. We're seeing a lot of searches about Iran's surprise attack online, especially with their attack on Jordan. First of all, why Jordan, and what do we know about the attack?
Yeah, so what we've seen from Iran since the beginning of this war is that when they attack back, they're not necessarily attacking these individual countries, but rather Iran has been targeting U.S. military assets that are posted in this part of the world. So that's what happened yesterday with the United States military, calling this a surprise attack from Iran. And they said that multiple U.S. military assets, there's a lot of bases here in Jordan where U.S. military troops are based. And so they were targeting the troops that were based there. And that's what we've seen. And when we're talking about Iran firing missiles at Bahrain or Kuwait or drones at Saudi Arabia or here in Jordan, it's mainly because there's U.S. military assets based in those countries.
And we also know the president responded saying that he would, quote, hit Iran hard. What exactly does he mean like that? What by that? What can we expect, Matt?
Yeah, good question. I mean, this is the kind of thing that we've heard from the president many, many times, and oftentimes he walks back without carrying out some sort of massive attack. What we know every single time, no matter what the conflict is, the U.S. military is a planning and logistics organization at the very end of the day. And what they do is they present the president with a range of options, whether it's more of a proportional response or whether it's an absolutely massive response. The president is going to be given all of those options, and it's up to him as the commander-in-chief to make the decision on what he does. Does that mean he's going to target civilian infrastructure like he's threatened to do before? That would be a massive escalation. Does he target more of the Iranian nuclear research sites? That's an option. Or does he do something a bit smaller or nothing at all? We simply don't know at this point, and this is kind of the MO of the president since the beginning of all this. He talks a big game and doesn't always follow through when it comes to actually carrying out those sort of massive attacks.
We're all in the dark when it comes to the president sort of speculating about what could happen next. But when it comes to what we're seeing on search, we're seeing a massive uptick of people wondering about just how many weapons Iran has left. Do we have that kind of intel, Matt?
We do. I mean, I think on the one hand, there's no question that the initial response, the initial attacks carried out by Iran and Israel decimated huge portions of the Iranian military. They basically no longer have a functioning air force. They basically no longer have a functioning navy, at least anywhere near what it was before. There's no question that the American-led attacks have had a massive, massive impact on Iran's military. That said, why have we seen U.S. deaths recently? Why do we see Iran continue to target those military assets I was just talking to you about? It's because they have a substantial supply of weapons left. And one of the key things in their arsenal is what's called a Shahed drone. These are drones that they send out with payloads, explosives on these drones. They cost about $30,000 each to make, and they have many, 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 many more drones, according to just about everyone you ask, every expert in this field. So they can continue to wage what's called asymmetric warfare against these U.S. military assets in this region for a long time to come, even if their broader military action has been degraded by a substantial amount.
Matt Rivers on the ground in Amman. Really appreciate your reporting, man. Stay safe out there. And time to tee up the former CDC director, Dr. Anthony Fauci, invoking the Fifth Amendment during Senate testimony on the U.S. response to the COVID-19 pandemic. Our Olivia Rubin is following the latest from our D.C. bureau. Olivia, so good to see you. This felt like a flashback from the pandemic era. Fauci on the Hill testifying. What exactly was he testifying for this time?
Austin, we're always somehow living in the year 2020, but this hearing really was about Republicans calling back Dr. Anthony Fauci because they claim that he misled the public when he talked about the origins of the COVID-19 pandemic. Specifically, the leader of that committee, Rand Paul, a Republican senator, has sort of held this belief, along with many other Republicans, and including President Trump, that COVID came from a lab in China and that possibly it was intentionally released. Dr. Fauci has said he thinks most likely it came from potentially a market in China, that it jumped from animals to humans. And this has been researched, but there's never been a clear answer. But Republicans have taken significant issue with Fauci, but they didn't get much from him because he didn't actually answer the questions. And of course, there was no shortage of sort of political theater during this hearing of Republicans excoriating Fauci over what they have taken issue with from the COVID-19 pandemic response that he led. Of course, that includes mask mandates and lockdowns, which Republican Party really still did not like.
Yeah, Olivia, I feel like before I even got to set, my social feed was lit up with videos of Fauci pleading the fifth. What kind of questions was he actually asked that led him to pleading the fifth, and how many times did he do so?
Well, it wasn't actually one question. Fauci made clear from his opening statement that he wasn't going to answer a single question that was asked of him. And you might wonder why. And it's because he says the Republican leader, Rand Paul, has a, quote, unhinged obsession with him. Rand Paul has called for Dr. Fauci to go to jail multiple times. He referred him to the Justice Department for criminal prosecution. So in Fauci's words, he said they were essentially just trying to trap him. Remember, and this is key here, Austin, Dr. Fauci has a pardon, right? President Biden pardoned him before he left office, but it only works or is in effect for anything up until the date of the pardon in 2025. So potentially, had he gone before the committee, testified under oath, and said something inaccurate, he could have been prosecuted for lying while under oath. So he said he wasn't going to answer, and he did end up pleading the fifth more than, I would say, dozens of times.
Yeah, Olivia, before I let you go, I got to ask you, like, what does it actually mean when someone pleads the fifth? Does it imply guilt when they're testifying? And we're seeing a lot of searches also about the president and how many times he's actually pled the fifth. Any insight there?
Well, the Fifth Amendment is a constitutional right that everyone has, which really just means at its core, Austin, that in a legal proceeding, you don't have to give up information that could incriminate yourself. So he invoked that right there to every single question. And you're right when you bring up President Trump, because the president has had his fair share of legal battles, and he too has pled the fifth. A specific instance that comes to mind is when he was being investigated by the New York Attorney General over her civil fraud case into President Donald Trump's businesses. He sat for a deposition in 2022 and pled the fifth over 400 times. So it's not necessarily uncommon. We've seen it a number of times before. So it's certainly something notable. But again, Fauci said that he viewed this as a trap, and that's why he took that route.
Olivia Rubin, time is a flat circle. Thanks so much for breaking it down for us. Appreciate you. We just ran through your top searches, but what else is on your timeline? Let's get back to Maya. Maya, what else is trending today?
Ashan, Apple is trending after announcing users can now lease iPhones and other products through a new partnership with buy now, pay later service Klarna. People are now searching how the deal will work, but they're also asking whether services like Klarna are safe. Could they affect your credit, and the downsides to leasing these products versus buying them? And someone in Florida is feeling very lucky today. A single ticket holder won the massive $800 million Mega Millions jackpot. Hundreds of thousands then took to search to check the winning numbers, the odds of winning, and look up where the lucky ticket was sold.
Maya, it wasn't us, but I learned that if you do have a shot at winning the lottery, that Florida's the place to do it. I guess for 90 days, they don't disclose your personal information. So if you want to hide, got to go win the lottery in Florida. Maya, thank you so much.
Thanks for the tip.
Coming up, one search always leads to another. We've got a trending topic, but that's just the surface. We're talking about the young protesters in India taking on their government with social media. The Spiral is up next. Welcome back to Search. Today's top searches are only part of the story. A simple scroll can sometimes take you down a deep rabbit hole. It's time now for The Spiral. All right, and you guys can't stop asking questions about the protests happening in India. We're following your clicks and curiosity, and it looks like you guys want to know more about the Cockroach Junta Party and the bigger picture of what the movement means. So let's break it down. We've got Yashika Dutt up first, then Amugdar Sharma. Y'all, thank you so much for joining us. Let's start with what the youth-based movement is actually demanding. Political journalist and author of Coming Out as Dalit, Yashika Dutt, joins me with more. Yashika, thank you so much for being here. You've been organizing protests in the U.S. in solidarity. You're an Indian national here living in the States, so set it up for our viewers. What actually is the Cockroach Junta Party, and what are they asking for?
The Cockroach Janata Party is an Indian student-led movement that took place because young people were asking for accountability from the Indian government. In early May, the Chief Justice of India, whose name is Surya Kant, called Indian students who were asking for employment cockroaches and parasites. That led to widespread backlash. And one particular student, who's a Dalit student at Boston University, his name is Abhijit Dipke, he started a satirical website called Cockroach Janata Party, which was themed after the Bharatiya Janata Party that is currently in power in India. They were calling themselves lazy, unemployed, and the only condition to join that is that you believe in the movement. However, behind that humor, there was a lot of depth. They were asking for precise demands and accountability from the government. They were asking for reforms in education. They were asking for press freedom. They were asking for reduced unemployment and several other demands, which the government has not paid attention to all these years. And that movement, that party, erupted into this widespread student-led protests where hundreds and thousands of Indian students joined in Delhi. They faced police brutality, they faced violent backlash, and they also did this movement, they carried out this movement through humor. It was mostly played out on social media. They documented the entire process because all of these students were young folks. They were the so-called Gen Z. So they were already documenting their lives online, and whether they were running from the police or they were calling the government out, they were doing it all online.
Yeah,
so the
Yashika,
Indian
sorry,
was not here to interfere.
Yeah, this feels like unlike anything that I've ever seen before coming out of India. You know firsthand the system that people are protesting in India. For people here in the U.S., what should they know about the education system there, and why was this the issue that catalyzed these protests?
I think this issue became a catalyst for these widespread protests, but it did not happen in isolation. There have been years of government repression. There have been years of education reforms that have not been met, the demands that have not been met. The high unemployment rate, 42% of graduate students in India right now are unemployed. And that's what led to these protests, because these young people, all they want to do is to be able to work. Not everybody has the capacity or means to move abroad, to come to the US, to come to the UK, especially with the visa conditions right now.
Yashika, sorry, go ahead.
So the education reforms were at the center of these protests.
Yeah, so you know that we all know that the education minister recently resigned last week. In your eyes, has that been a success, or is this sort of symbolic? Like, what is next for the CJP in these protests?
I think the education minister has resigned, but the person who has taken his place, many are calling him a person of the same token. Somebody, he has been called out for having a portfolio that is not related to education before. He is somebody who also belongs to the RSS. So this is more of the same. And a lot of people are not very happy with this new appointment that has happened. As far as the CJP is concerned, they are very focused on making sure that the Indian state does not go after the protesting students, that they are protected and there are no police arrests that are being made against the students who participated in these protests.
Yashika, thank you so much for breaking this down for us. Really appreciate it. Let's bring in University of Oxford fellow Amugdar Sharma for more context and understanding of the CJP. Amug, thank you for joining us. Yashika gave us a bit of an explainer about what this movement is, but spell it out for people who are learning about it for the first time. What are the systems in place that actually got us here?
I think the biggest controversy that really took place was regarding an entrance exam that is the entrance exam to all medical schools across the country that was leaked around mid-May. And I think it was the anger around that that really galvanized protesters behind the Congress Janata Party. Education still remains the biggest chance of social mobility in India. And the entrance exam that I was referring to, everyone takes it, whether you're a middle-class person, upper middle class, or you belong to a really poor family whose parents have saved up to take this exam and prepare for this exam. So I think it's these sort of structural crises that kept coming up, and also 12th grade examinations, which had their own scam around the same period in early May. So I think it was these crisis after crisis, scam after scam, that was galvanizing anger at a very structural level.
Sure. And Amug, there's been a slew of protests in India over the past several years, but these protests in particular seem to have gotten the attention of Prime Minister Modi's for the first time in a way that we haven't seen before, led to the resignation of the education minister. Why, in your eyes, was this a different case?
I think for me, the answer is the sociological composition of this protest. You're right. In the past, we have had many protests on university campuses. In 2016, it was the JNU University in India. In New Delhi, Jawaharlal Nehru University. In 2019, it was Jamia Millia Islamia. In the past, student protests were concentrated at certain campuses, certain universities, and the both leaning. Jamia Millia in particular draws a crowd amongst Muslims. And in this scenario, it was very easy to brand these protests as being anti-national, foreign funded. I think this protest is sociologically different because it draws its strength from a much more wider spectrum of society. Of course, we have Muslims. Of course, we have strong, educated Dalit students who are rallying behind this protest, Abhijit Dipke, no less. But also this has impacted upper caste, forward caste, Hindu families, and they have stepped out in the streets. So it's been that much harder for the Modi government to tarnish these protesters as foreign funded, as being vitiated by anti-nationals.
Yeah, it certainly feels like one of the first instances where classes feel united in the country for the sake of the protests. But we've also seen the protests make the rounds here in the U.S. on social media. Are there issues that we're seeing in these protests that are bigger than just India? Like, why should a young person in the United States be paying attention to what's going on abroad?
It's funny. A few months back, I had colleagues at University of Oxford run a workshop on the Gen Z protests that took place in Nepal, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka. And one question we kept asking a few months back is that where's the Gen Z protest in India? And lo and behold, it's here. So I think you're right. There's a structural story. I think it would be a mistake to simply look at the examination paper leaks and see that as the only proximate source that is driving all of this. There's a deeper structural crisis that I think works at three levels. The one level would be educational crisis that I've already referred to, years of underfunding, systematic destruction of public universities, politicization of university appointments and going after professors who are seen to be critical of the government. The second level is economic. Even after you get an education, you don't find a good, well-paying, respectable job. And the third structural crisis is political. When people are unhappy, when people want to protest, any sort of protest is branded as being anti-national. And we've also seen multiple irregularities in elections which have taken place in recent years, in recent months in India. And that again has produced a sense of frustration that if people are angry, if people are unhappy with the way things are headed, where do they go to? So the streets are where they're headed.
Amug, thank you so much for breaking this down, man. Appreciate you joining us. Still ahead, it might be at the top of your feed, but what's the vibe? We've got your top pop culture and entertainment searches with Roxy Diaz, including why BTS says they're not looking for a Grammys nod next year. Vibe Check is next. Time now for our Vibe Check, a look at what's buzzing in entertainment and pop culture. Roxy Diaz joins me now for more on what's trending on your feeds. Roxy, sis, I missed you. They had me like fighting for my life on my own out here, so you gotta let me know. What's the vibe?
Oh my gosh, let me save your life right now. If I could save anybody today, it's gonna be you. Listen, the game is officially out of the box. Sony dropped the first trailer for Jumanji Open World, the fifth and final film where the avatars land in the real world and the players can respawn. Now, everyone is getting reassigned. Spencer's mom becomes Dwayne Johnson's Bravestone, his little nephew turns into Kevin Hart's Mouse, and Spencer himself gets Karen Gillan's Ruby Roundhouse. Now, Jake Kasdan returns to direct, and it hits theaters Christmas Day. The final level looks like the wildest one yet, and if you're following Kevin and The Rock on Instagram, they are dropping gems and giving us the best comedy promoting this movie, so check it out. Now, Sandra Oh is opening up about the legacy of Christina Yang on Dinners with Me and Jesse Tyler Ferguson, she shared that people still stop her and say that the character changed their lives. She says one woman told her that she'd been engaged to a man who didn't want her to work, then watched Christina chose the opportunity over the relationship. The fan telling O, I left him, I became a lawyer, and O's response was, good for you, because whatever was going on in your life, it was just not enough. 10 seasons, one character who told a generation of women, you know what? Choose themselves. I love that story. Now, BTS is sitting this one out. The 7-member K-pop group releasing a statement saying, guess what? They will not submit their new music for Grammy consideration, saying, we hope our music can be heard and loved for what it is, rather than being divided by region or language. Now, the timing raised eyebrows 1 month after the Recording Academy announced a new Best Asian Pop Music Performance category. 4 nominations, 0 wins, and BTS is now joining The Weeknd and the Drake in stepping away from music's biggest night. That is insane. And the internet has thoughts. So listen to this. 90210 star Anna Lynn McCord and fiance Danny Caprini, a former England rugby star, are facing backlash after their wedding registry asked guests to crowdfund the wedding. Now, the Honey Fund page reportedly included $500 asks for the rehearsal dinner, $600 for florals, and 8 600 contributions toward the building venue itself. Now, the screenshot spread fast and the public guest book filled up with critics calling it out of touch. Now, I don't know, Ash. I'm not married, so I don't know how this works or not. But the wedding etiquette part, I don't know, is this like one that we could talk about? Is that like, no, faux pas, you don't do that? Or like, it's okay?
Roxy, I'm planning a wedding right now. This seems absolutely crazy. And I'm not, like, what? These guys are like reality stars, right? Like, I feel like they got some bread, right? Like, it's
I mean, you'd be surprised what people get paid. But here's my thing. Would you rather a toaster, or would you rather me help you create the best moment in your whole entire life?
I'm gonna have to get back to you on that one.
Yeah,
That's a good one. That's a good one. All right, I get you. All right, fine. Man, this is eating me alive these days, so that one hit close to home. Roxy, I appreciate you.
You're welcome.
All right, I'm Ashin Singh, and this is Searched on ABC News Live, where your questions meet real answers. We'll leave you with what's trending right now on abcnews.com. You can scan that QR code right there to catch up, and I'm gonna see you back here tomorrow. Stay safe.